Namaste, everyone. I would like to welcome you back to my channel, IndigoAngel. Welcome you back to my Facebook page, IndigoAngel. My name is Amanda, and I go by Indy. And today I have a special guest on my channel. This is Shaughnessy. He is an author of a book called There Is Something About the Moon. And I actually have the book in my hand. So I was just so excited to get this book and read it, because those of you who know me know that I base all of my starseed energy updates off of the Lunar Mechanics and off of the Mayan calendar. So the more that I get into this moon exploration, I go deeper into the quantum realms of the mechanics and the mythology of the moon. And so it just so synchronistically that this book kind of came into my life. And John, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, John Shaughnessy here. I'm an independent researcher, author, and I get into far out topics and try to untangle a lot of the mysteries that we're faced with in today's era. A lot of the ancient sites. Do a lot of research on that. I have a lot of videos on YouTube that get into the megaliths and pyramids and just about everything that's out there that's intriguing and has a big mystery. As a lot of these places seem like they're out of time. They're just from a totally different era, and the explanations that we're getting are kind of not as good as they could be. So that's kind of my thing, and I enjoyed troubleshooting. I was in the power industry for a lot of years, and that was my main influence in that industry was troubleshooting large equipment, power plants, things of that nature. So I have a big background and a working background in all the sciences and mechanics and how things work and things of that nature. And as a teenager, I was exposed to a job working in the Museum of Science in the planetarium as a 16-year-old out in the Boston Museum of Science, and I'd go there on the weekends and I would take tickets and I would be part of the show. I would run around the back walls changing slides in the cameras, the old Honeywell cameras, the still slides during the show on sequence, so they would show like a supernova or a dwarf star or 100 of other different types of astronomical events that happen over the course of this world we live in. So so that kind of opened up my eyes into the cosmos, and I think I've been out there ever since. Just always been looking at the stars. I was always obsessed with telescopes and binoculars and
And I
staring
think
out into space.
I can pick up on that in your book. I can tell that your research was cultivated from a very highly expanded perception of consciousness, that you were coming from a place of, been there, done that, gone down a lot of these rabbit holes. You could tell that you definitely have a lot of knowledge, especially on the moon. So what specifically got you hooked on the mechanics of the moon?
Well, my first book, Pyramid Gravity Force, I got into I got the picture of it here. It's my first book, Pyramid Gravity Force, and this is both my books. I have two books, and they both have a moon on it. So I got into the theoretical physics of what these pyramids were doing, and the eureka moment for me was that they were condensing the moon's gravitational force and using it for work in controlling magma deep down inside the earth, magma currents, keeping the Hawaiian hotspot open basically through the pyramids in the Giza Plateau. They align 180 degrees opposed to each other. And that's the Earth's relief valve. Last year, we saw there was a large sequence of eruptions out there because all the planets were aligned on one side of the Earth in our solar system, which gave an extraordinary gravitational tug, outer influence, if you will, on our planet. And this system set up by the gods, basically keeps the planet from being pulled apart or limits the amount of catastrophic occurrences like tidal waves, tsunamis, large earthquakes, tectonic plate slips, you name it. So the system's still in order. It's still working. And so that's why, going full circle, that's where I kind of started looking at the moon a lot more closely and its effects on the planet and the endocrine system. Every species on the planet, be
Yeah.
it a plant or humans, animals, fish, they all have a feel. There's an effect the moon has on everything,
I think
including the planet.
I think that's kind of what triggered my awareness too, is because
Yeah.
during my awakening, I actually thought I had like an endocrine problem. I thought something was wrong with my endocrine system. And then come to find out, all of this is kind of related with the relationship with the moon and how it controls all of these subconscious cycles within our own psyche,
Mm-hmm.
multiple cycles of subconscious cycles. And so if, we don't have a healthy relationship with the moon, I mean, do we even have a healthy relationship with our own body?
So, yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. It's really fascinating. I was wondering if you could go into the creation story of the moon.
Yeah, I think Wendy and I, my co-author on the second book, There Is Something About the Moon. We kind of delved into the the esoterics, the esotericism, and we still feel the Earth and the Moon are a station, they're in this reality, but there's also other dimensions and realities outside of where we can see, touch, feel, smell, taste, and so we started looking into the evolution of the moon and what it was. It's almost like it was a miniature Earth at one time, and it had its own moon, and it was a place for life to evolve, and so as time progressed,
So the moon at one
uh,
time was its own body with its own moon.
its own moon. It was an environment for living species, much like we see today on Earth. And it was a just a basically a miniature Earth. Really, it had its own magnetic field. And I think over time, like we might do this to our planet, is everything has a time limit. Going out on a timeline, everything's gonna transform into another
Everything's connected to a
material world.
yeah.
Yeah, so it goes through itself, its life existency, its life expectancy, and it more or less becomes dead in the eyes of what we're seeing. From, if you were to compare it to Earth, it would be like a dead planet, but yet still living in a different sense of the word.
Do you think
You
that's
know, and
why?
it,
Do you think that's why the moon, that Kundalini life force, that energy that we feel from the moon, could bring through the dimensions of the underworld, or it's a process of death, birth, sex, regeneration, and that's why is because it's not living, is because it's the opposite of living.
right? Yeah. I think gravity, because it stretches and releases the gravitational field on the planet Earth, and it's also a connection with time, and so there's a lot of dimensions that get um, moved around and shuffled around even on a daily basis. Now it's a 28-day moon cycle, and 29 really, but that going through that cycle every month, you go through these vortexes.
Yes.
Unbeknownst to us, we have emotions. We're all over the place. We just, oh, this is how I'm feeling today, not knowing, well, there's a reason you're feeling like this. So there's aggressive behavior, you're laid back, you're passive aggressive, you're just tired, what have you. But
I think
so in essence,
that you went into that in the book, how it affects
yeah,
the fluids of the body. And the more that
yeah,
I research it, I actually find its connection with the iron element because of the
mm-hmm,
core, like the moon core is iron, the earth's core is
mm-hmm,
iron, and then there's like this diagmatic effect on our bodies, where
Right.
I think our bodies are actually compressing in magnetic energy, and this is what
Yes. Right.
strangulates your emotional body.
Yeah. 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 That too. I mean, that's that happens also. So there's a connection. It's the endocrine system and it's very sensitive, especially women. Women are more susceptible to the gravitational pull and tug than men are. But it's it's a lot of the ancient cultures, the women would gravitate, no pun intended, would gravitate towards menstruating together, and procreating together, and on
Yeah,
based on the moon cycle,
yeah.
have a higher potential for
What do you think that means if what do you think that means if a woman isn't in sync to the moon's flow? So like if she's not menstruating at the full moon, if she's
yeah,
off cycle, let's say she's ovulating on the full moon. I always feel like if you're in sync to the moon's cycles, then you're in sync planetarily.
right,
It doesn't
right,
necessarily mean that you're not a part of the planet because you're not in sync with that. But
yeah.
how does that happen where we can be off?
I think that this today's world is so fast. There's a lot of energy. We're picking up EMF. There's a lot of chemicals. You're exposed to all sorts of external forces, Wi-Fi, cell phones.
Yeah.
And then you got a work schedule, and it doesn't conform with your body schedule and things of that nature. So it's not that there's something wrong with people that aren't in sync with it. It's just it might be harder for them to be out of sync. Like you might have less pain through menstruation than if you were in sync with the moon. It would be easier on you if you were in sync with it. Now I know I've talk to them that they can get into sync with it, and it's not that difficult to
Yeah. Yeah.
get in sync with the schedule, the moon phases, and
I feel as a
it
woman,
might.
if you are in sync to that, that you're more powerful. You're more
Hmm.
you're more psychic.
Right.
As you go through those lunar phases, you actually
Yeah.
draw in more of that energy, so you makes you more, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anytime you can be in sync with the natural world, it's going to benefit you. Physically, mentally, spiritually, and yeah. So it's just a life choice, really. It's if you want to find out about it, learn about it. Like you want to get into
In
it.
sync with the moon or not.
Yeah, right. You want to do it the hard way? Okay, well, sooner or later you're coming back. So about the moon, all the planets that have moons have magnetic fields, and the planets that don't have moons don't have magnetic fields. So, and magnetic fields give you the environment for life as we know it today, and in this dimension that we're in right now on Earth. So the mere fact that we have one large satellite, the moon, that's an intangible part of the gravitational and magnetic fields that we have today that basically keep life alive. Mars lost its moon. There's a debris field about 3 million miles away behind it that's traveling at the same speed and in the same orbit. And not sure if that was a War of the Worlds way back when, or an asteroid hit it and destroyed Mars's moon. But I believe the evidence shows that there was life up there at one time. And when you lose the moon, when you lose the moon on a planet, you're not going to have the atmosphere, you're not going to have the magnetic fields, you're not going to have the protection from the sun, because we need the sun, but in the same instance, we need protection from the sun. So it's kind of a yin and the yang type of thing. Kind of
Right.
going off topic, but
No,
just
it's fine. It's all within the moon.
yeah, yeah.
So Venus and
Yeah.
Mars don't have moons anymore.
Venus, Mercury, and Mars don't have moons, right? Right. You got two satellites on Mars, but they're just rocks, really. They're not, they're like a couple 100 miles in diameter. They really don't have any gravitational effect on the planet. They probably could have been part of the original moon, and they're just two fragments that actually got trapped in the Mars gravitational field. So, but all the other planets have strong magnetic fields. Jupiter's got, I think they just found another 11 or 12 planets on Jupiter. That's the next one right outside the asteroid belt. So it goes Mercury, Venus, the Earth, Mars, asteroid belt, Jupiter, then Saturn.
And it's interesting too, because whenever I do starseed readings, because I do starseed readings, so like any big planet, like Jupiter and Saturn, like I feel like they rule the aspects of the oversoul. They rule the aspects of like
Huge players. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I feel like probably that magnetic field has a lot to do with that incarnational portal structure, because I feel like these planets are portal gateways for spirit to incarnate.
Absolutely. They've back 2,000-3,000 years ago, the planets were very significant. The seven spikes coming out of the Statue of Liberty's head, those represented the planets at one time. I don't know what they represent now, but they're the seven planets. So, and then if you go back, you'll see, 2,000 years ago with Rome, Libertaeus, she had the seven, horns coming out, or rays, what have you.
Which would probably be the moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn.
Yeah. It was just, see, not going, we weren't going too far out the other planets, but well, those ones actually have a significant force on Earth. They have a significant play in earthquakes, gravitational tugs, our weather, you name it. Anything that happen on the planet is Jupiter, especially. Jupiter is just such a monster. It's so large that it actually is in a binary orbit with our sun. It actually tugs the sun and puts the sun on a corkscrew trajectory around the galactic center, our galaxy.
Wow.
It's massive. Yeah. So and then when we come in between, these two bodies, you get the sun here and Jupiter here, and my head would be the Earth, if you will. You get a lot of volcanic activity, earthquakes. That's why I think it was Zeus. Was Saturn Zeus? I think the rumbler, or one of the ancient gods. I'm not sure. The planets were also named after the gods, and the gods' behavior represented the planet's behavior and effects on us. So, yes. So they're. I think the space agencies on Earth, like NASA, the ESA, all the other space agencies, are starting to realize, and the colleges and astronomy are starting to realize and bring that back into the fold, that these planets actually do have a larger effect on our just simple environment, our temperatures.
That they would be bringing that back just now and then.
Yeah, it's like, what happened? They didn't go. The planets have still been there. So
okay, so
like,
I had another question. So what is the Manu? Is that the soul of the moon?
Yeah, it's kind of like the God spirit, the light being spirit, the Manu, the manifestation of life in and of itself in this dimension. Yeah, so it'd be the life force. It's alive, but in a different way.
In a different dimension. Do you think that it's alive on Earth in like the first and second dimension? So if you looked at a 12-dimensional scale of physical matter,
right,
density on Earth, would you say that the moon influences primarily like the first and second dimension?
Okay. Yes. Yeah, I'd say that. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, obviously it's all dimensions, but I feel like there's maybe a level of influence as you go through the dimensions.
Right. Yeah. I think the phases and the alignments, and also going back to the planets, like if Mars is aligned with Jupiter, and then you get the moon comes into play, you always have these huge, effects on Earth. Mostly it's volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, things of that nature. So again, you're getting different places of the planet, you get those deja vus. You might even be one of those people that get a time slip, and then all of a sudden you're, 50 years earlier, 1950s instead of 2019. You walk into the store and there's totally different things on the shelves, and you're like, what happened to this?
Planetary time acceleration.
Yeah,
I think that's
because
happening now. I think that's
oh
going on.
yeah,
Because
um,
if the magnetic force is weakening,
right,
we are
yeah,
experiencing more integration of solar particles and cosmic particles and
right, right,
electromagnetic energy. Wouldn't this
yeah.
speed up time essentially?
Yeah, speed it up. Yeah, the higher you are, the faster it's going to go. The lower in the Earth, the slower it goes. The more denser the gravitational field, the slower time is, and the higher. So when you get a tug from the moon and other planets, you're speeding up time, and then when you pass through it, it slows down again. So there's a
So do
there's
you think
this.
the dark ages on Earth during the period of like the Iron Age,
Mm-hmm.
these darker periods on Earth where there's less consciousness, do you think that has to do then with, it has to do with the phase of the moon? It has to do with the magnetic force.
Yeah, I think it's you just have to respect the four-letter word time. It sometimes you see the last 200 years we've made remarkable and unbelievable jumps, leaps in technology and understanding, and then, like, what were you guys doing in the dark ages? It's like 500-600 years, and
They
not
didn't
much
know it
coming
was
out. So it's yeah, it could be an alignment thing. It could be, it's just that one particular invention that really kickstarts the human mind. Some people think it's the ability to make beer. I mean, it could be that simple. It's all of a sudden they could mass produce it and everybody was getting it. Get the brain kicked on. Not to advocate drinking and drugging or anything, but
Yeah.
it's another theory. But well, there was a lot of restrictions too. I mean, you had a religious stranglehold on any kind of science. So that was, you have to put that into perspective. So I shouldn't be picking on the guys, in the Middle Ages. So they were under a lot of, they were locked down. A lot of scientists. Everything had to be done in secret.
Yeah.
Threat of death, and it
Yeah.
goes on and on. So
I think I read
yeah,
about, somebody in history that got hung
yeah.
just for putting out some information about the sun or something.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah. Galileo. I mean, he was off to the tower with you. Sometimes they spared you, and other times they didn't. And then not to mention the witch trials, and just it literally was the Dark Ages. So I think the human consciousness was trying to jump out and overcome that. And eventually we did, but it took some time. Yeah.
Well,
Sad. It was a sad time.
it's been an ascension cycle essentially because you have these previous civilizations like the Mayan
Hmm.
who are obviously in a high state of ascension for them to anchor in a lunar solar calendar.
Right. Right.
But then you go through the dark ages and then we have the Gregorian, which is just primarily a solar calendar.
Right. Yes. The kind of my feeling on the solar, Gregorian calendar was like a step backwards. The Gregorian calendar we have today is nowhere near as efficient and complete as the Mayan calendar. I mean, it's like night and days. I mean, we have leap years, and constantly adjusting them,
Yeah.
one way or another, just trying to make it right. And again, it's another thing that kind of throws off the body clock. This 12-month cycle, it kind of throws you off. So if you'd be more in tune with nature, going back to the Mayan months, I don't know if they had 18 months or 28 months or something like that. I don't know. A lot more months.
I think there's two calendars going at the same time. I think
Yeah.
there's the 365-day solar and then there's the 260
Right.
day Tzolk'in.
Okay. All right.
But
Yeah, it's been a while since I studied them, but yeah, they even knew that the Mayan culture. They even knew that during the full moon, they would wait for the rumble, down in, Peru and Bolivia. And they would wait for the rumble during the full moon because they knew the moon affected the volcanoes. So they have a long standing tradition that after the full moon came, an earthquake or a volcanic eruption. So they knew they were well aware of the connection between the moon and probably well aware of the other planets coming into alignment with the moon. The moon seems to be the portal or the focal point that that really pulls in. It kind of like connects the other gravitational fields from the other planets. So when it comes up, you could be in alignment with Mars and Jupiter all day, all year long, but until the moon comes into that straight alignment, that's when you really feel the effect on the planet. That's when the planet feels the effect, and the human mind psyche
Yeah.
effects also.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Well, I feel like you're just like speaking music to my ears, really, because
Hmm.
it's honestly really hard to find people who actually have like this much in-depth knowledge about the moon. Like,
Yeah,
it's really deep. It's really connected to just everything. It's
right.
um,
Yeah, I know. When I'm in a crowded grocery store and I'm like, oh my God, I'm never going to get out of here. I start whispering to people saying there's images on the moon, and then they fall down on the floor and get into the fetal position and start sucking their thumb. So it's like, what was an hour wait, it's now like 10 minutes and I'm out the door. I just scream it out. Yeah, there's images on the moon. Everybody's like, I can't
there's
get the
there's
reality of
there's
it.
five, right? There's five
Yeah,
images.
5 images. Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
tell us about those?
Yeah, yeah. It's like as above, so below. It's you get the two tropics down on Earth. You got the Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. I'm a Cancer, so kind of jives with me. And
I'm a Cancer moon. My moon position's in Cancer, so
okay, excellent. Yeah. So there you go. So you have Cancer and Capricorn, and those are the tropics. And these images that represent those two words that we're using. Capricorn's the goldfish, and the Cancer's the claw. It's a some kind of an animal or a species with a claw, but for the most part, it's the claw. And there's ancient tales, stories, leftover remnants of history that we were able to tease back out of the ancients and put it into the book. A lot of the stories behind those two symbols and why they were chosen.
I was gonna say, how did you find some of this information? Because I honestly was researching the Cobra, and there wasn't very much coming up.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. The cobra's a very elusive symbol, although it's big in Egyptian. The headrest, the headset, the hood. Yeah, most of the pharaohs, the death mask that they have, the gold death mask, they always had the cobra coming out, and the tail would come out of its chest. They said it was a beard, but I think it represents the rest of the body of the cobra. Your neck is like kind of like it could be part of a snake, for the most part. So it's just a theory. That's why today, well, I kind of laugh about it. I see everybody walking around with suit and ties. They got the tie on. They don't realize that's the cobra body. So
Yeah.
anyways,
Oh, yeah. Wow. I didn't even.
yeah.
Okay.
Just the things that are in my mind didn't really make it to the book, but eventually they'll come out. So that's why I like to do shows once in a while, throw some stuff out there.
Yeah.
But my idea interpretations, anyways. But yeah, it's odd. You go searching for something on the internet and you'll find it one day, and the next day you'll go back in and it'll be completely gone. It's like somebody erased it, deleted it,
I know.
and it's
I
very
know.
weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's like some kind of a information slip or something. So yeah, so anyways, you got these two symbols, and they represent tide going in, tide going out. Ice age coming in, interglacial period coming in. So they
So
both
the claw and
tide,
the
the
seagoat, or the
goldfish.
claw and
Yeah,
the
seagull.
goatfish
Yeah.
represent the interglacial and the what?
in the Ice Age.
in the Ice Age.
So during the Ice Age, the tide's going out, and the Cobra and claw are both on one part of the moon, the top part of the moon, and that'll, as we go into an Ice Age tilt, the moon, our orientation of the moon, those two symbols will come right up. Right now they're kind of upside down, but they will come right side up. Then you'll be looking at the Cobra, and a famous stele with Akhenaten and Nefertiti are in the book, and that shows 28 rays coming down, attached to the Yank, and that's a lot of people misinterpret that as the sun. It's not the sun; it's the moon, and the phases of the moon, and that is a timestamp of how many millennia they spent swinging back and forth in the age of Cobra and Cancer on that stele. So there's a lot of information in the book that'll break down these ancient clocks. Like everybody thinks it was art, like somebody had, they had a lot of time on Sunday, let's put together a stele, and we'll throw a couple of rays and ankhs in there and then see what happens. But it's actually instrumentation. They're actually very sophisticated clocks that were used, and they're also timestamps.
Is this the grandmother clock that's in the book that you talk about?
It's connected to the grandmother clock is the 104,000 year Ice Age, coupled with the 13 to 16,000 year interglacial period. So we're in the age of man and the sea goat right now, and the tide is coming in. So the goat, many species of the goat, they climb the mountains. They're going up in the mountains. So there's a significance to that image, is that climb to higher ground because the tide is coming in because of the ice caps melting. So higher water levels.
And I wanted you to talk about that. How when the water bodies shift on the planet, how that can throw off the gravitational field.
Yes. Like one of my latest discoveries I put out on YouTube was Göbekli Tepe, like what those round circles at Göbekli Tepe with the two T heads, hammerhead type of looking stones in the middle, and basically that the only thing that makes any sense is the Earth being in a 90-degree tilt towards the sun. So, and there's one other planet, Uranus, is in a 90-degree tilt. So 6 months out of the year, the South Pole is pointing at the sun. The other 6 months of the year, the North Pole is pointing at the sun. So 3 months of, so you have 6 months of total darkness on each pole. So you have 3 months of total darkness on the North Pole, 3 months of total darkness on the South Pole. Now, if you go back into the stone circles at Göbekli Tepe, you'll see that more or less is a solar clock, an astronomical clock of where we are in the year at a 90-degree tilt. So that's why there's stones all the way around the circle, and the T heads actually line up with the sun. Because you're on one side of the sun for 6 months, and then you go around the sun, and you're on the other side of the sun for the other 6 months. So that all being said, the as we transfer the ice into liquid, the Southern Ocean is getting larger, because you have I don't know, I think it's like 2/3 of the land mass is up in the northern hemisphere, and then the other 2/3 of the other third of the land mass in the southern hemisphere. But the largest body of water is in the southern hemisphere.
Okay.
So as the ice caps melt, that water goes into the ocean, and the southern hemisphere gets larger and larger. Well, what happens over time, and it's happening right now, is the tilt is changing slightly by 10, 20 feet every equinox.
Is that why the North Pole is shifting into Siberia?
That's more of the magnetic field. That's the magnetic field, true magnetic north. That's kind of meandering and going off into Siberia. Now that's that over a period of years that the planet has been here. That's a normal occurrence. It does wander. They call it polar wander,
Okay.
magnetic polar
So it's
wander.
something
So
that we should actually, because I feel like so many people freak out about that.
yeah, I don't. There's not much you can do about it. I mean, is other than if you limit your exposure to the sun. But at the same time, the sun's what keeps us healthy too. So it's like
Yeah.
it's like yin and yang type of things. But anyways, what's happening now is the moon's drag on the southern hemisphere is getting every drop that goes into the ocean and ends up in the ocean from the ice, transfers from the ice to water into the ocean. As the ocean swells, the moon's drag is going to increase on that larger body of ocean down in the southern hemisphere, and that in an effect is what's going to cause the tilt. So we're at 23 and a half right now, and as the ocean grows in the southern hemisphere, the moon's drag increases, and you'll end up, this is an ice age tilt. If you look at Göbekli, it's
Okay.
sideways.
Uh-huh.
So you can imagine you're getting the sun, one, for 3 months, sun here, and then total darkness all the way around on the other end. Yeah, if you go check that video out, I got a lot more graphics and
Yeah, I think I need to check that one
it,
out
it,
because that's
it,
so
it kind of
fascinating.
yeah. So that's
I think I
like
read something in your book. It said it lasts like 104,000 years.
yeah. According to the ice samples that they've drilled out in Antarctica and up in the Greenland ice sheet, they say that they've gone back 100 or a million or close to a million years. So, but what they've done is they've made a nice scale that's in the book, and it shows the average ice age is 104,000 years, and you get an interglacial period, which we're in right now, or at the end of, which generally lasts about 13,500 years. So going full circle with the moon drag. Hmm? That's it. Yes. Yep. That's it.
All right.
So you can see the high ones, the tall ones. Thank you. The tall ones are the interglacial periods. Now, because we had this Younger Dryas situation back 10,000 years ago, generally we would have been. I think the ice caps would have been melted by now. But because we went back into an ice age, a mini ice age, and that kind of stalled the melting of the ice caps. So I think what we have a potential of going maybe 15 to 16,000 years instead of 13,500. So you might get another 1,000 years, maybe another 1,000 or 2,000 with this interglacial period, and with the Earth being tilted back to its ice age tilt. So in essence, the Younger Dryas period has given us more time in this interglacial period. It's the interglacial period where it's the age of man. There's the face of the man on the moon, and they're right side up. The goatfish and the image of man is right side up. So that is the era that we're in right now. And as we go back into the ice age tilt, they'll go upside down. They'll be out of play, and then the cobra and the claw will be right side up, and we'll be in the age of cobra and claw, or claw and cobra, whatever which way you want to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because the serpent energy on a psychic level has been coming up so much. I feel like there's a lot of star systems that aren't really channeled, and one of them that I've been talking about lately is Hydra. So that's serpent energy, you know.
Yes.
And so I don't know. It's just kind of all been exposing itself, I feel. But do you think that the amount of carbon that we have in our environment is going to increase the severity of an ice age?
Well, I think it's expediting the melting of the ice caps, and the ice age is based on the ice water ratio. So as the water ratios get larger, the moon's tug gets larger, and consequently causes the tilt to increase. So you're going to get an increase in tilt. So when you do get into an ice age tilt of 90 degrees, you'll go back into the ice age. So if you can slow down the melting of that remaining ice, the Greenland ice sheet, Antarctica, and whatever's left up there in Arctica, you could, essentially, keep this interglacial period going. Um,
But
you
it's an
know, it,
inevitable process ultimately.
yeah, it's possible. I mean, we have to stop. The oil economy has been pretty fierce in burying anything that comes in competition with them selling gasoline. So they'll buy patterns, they'll bury them, they'll some instances have gone out and killed people. People, well, they've ended up dying in a car accident, plane accident,
Yeah,
but
right,
out of
right.
all the people on the planet, they're the ones that end up dying in the car accident.
Wow.
Or something to that effect. But yeah, so we are having an effect. Human activity is having effect on expediting the ice age, more or less,
So when that
causing it to come in
tilt
quicker.
happens, when that tilt
Yeah.
happens, does that mean that the magnetic field has disengaged with the moon? Does that mean it's
No,
gonna essentially like float away? Or
no. The moon's still going to be in orbit around us. The moon is, an integral part of the original design. The planet was this planet solar system. The whole solar system is basically designed by you know divine geniuses. Really, I mean, it's just from everything in here has got a purpose. I know we're taught that it's all happened naturally. It's just like after you start digging into this, it's like no way did this stuff just happen. Just randomly. It's impossible. It's just beyond yeah. It's just absolute insanity to think there wasn't you know an intellect behind it. A
mhm.
God. So yeah. So yes, yeah. I would say that's
The nanotidal forces.
yeah.
So how does that all play into
I
this?
guess
The
is that
nanotidal.
nanotidal forces. I think I think the nano's small, obviously. So that's on the body. We're very sensitive to those tidal forces, gravitational forces, and things of that nature.
I was
I'm
almost
not sure. I'm not sure. Is that what you're talking about?
Well,
Or
I guess what I was thinking about was, you know how the moon rocks in its orbit?
yeah, it's the Metonic cycle. Yeah.
Is there
Uh-huh.
simultaneous tidal forces? So it's like you have the tidal force of the planet with the ocean, with the actual tides of the ocean, but then do we
Yeah.
also have an additional like miniature
But-
tidal force with the rocking within its cycle?
yeah. It's like we're right. Actually, this year we're in the middle of the Metonic cycle. It's an 18 and a half year moon cycle. And like, if you see the moon tonight, it won't be in the same spot until 18 and a half years from now. So it's constantly rocking back and forth. So we're right. The moon is like right in the middle, and a lot of stellies in Egypt. They again, it's Ra. They think it's the sun. It's not the sun. It's the
It's
moon.
fascinating.
It's just, and
It's really
it's
fascinating. Yeah.
it's showing that the moon is right in the middle of the Metonic cycle. I was at Stonehenge a few months back. We had a full moon rise, and it came up over the Heelstone, which was set up for the moon. And at the same day, we also it was at the winter solstice. So it's very very it happens. It's an anomaly that you'll have a full moon rise with the winter or summer solstice. Was really a great place. There's a lot of energy there, and the clouds were dancing around over the stones and everything. But yeah,
Awesome.
so there is. So yeah, you do have a lot of you know rocking and things of that nature. But going full circle, every year that the moon goes through a cycle, it's putting it flexes the plates that it's going over. So it'll start way up north and it'll work its way down to the equator and go way down south and then back again. So 18 and a half years, it's like it's like going to a massage therapist. Is going to start working up here, then we're going to, and in 18 years we'll get down to your toes. It's like
It's
so
interesting.
everything gets, and then it starts over again. So it's like it massages the planet, and what it does is it releases built up energy in between tectonic plate boundaries. Every day it flexes that particular alignment that it's in over that particular part of the earth. It removes that stress, so you don't have these massive earthquakes, and everybody gets a good night's sleep on the planet. If you didn't have it, every time there was a thermal, cold spell or hot spell, it just unreleased untold amount of energy, and probably we wouldn't be here, as a species.
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible. I
Yeah.
wonder on like a biological level, like what that 18-year cycle is connected to, because they say the sun is on an 11-year cycle.
Yes, 11 years. Yeah, yeah.
So I always wonder if like every 11 years, if I'm gonna have something happen, if something's gonna shift every 11 years. So I'm wondering like every 18 years.
Yeah, yeah. It was. It. Yeah, we're definitely connected. There's definitely there's like
There's no
something
doubt
going
about
on.
that. There's
Now,
no.
it might now, like with the moon's metonic cycle, right? Most people stay in the same geographical location, so you're affected by this alignment of the moon. Like, okay, you see a full moon, but might not be as profound as the full moon that's directly, in alignment with the spot that you're living on the planet. So it might be more intense, where the other years is not so intense. So the intensity on a micro level is a lot more. Yeah, I put out a paper and a video on the reason the sun has an 11-year cycle is because Jupiter takes 11 years to go around the sun, and once it gets between once the Earth and the Moon get between Jupiter and the sun goes quiet, and it's clockwork. It has a pole swap, magnetic pole swap.
Yeah.
Your eyes, and then then it goes, like, maybe it could go for like a couple of months or sometimes a couple of years before the sun starts getting active again. Active, I mean, with sunspots. I think we just started getting into sunspot season now. It's been over a year now. Excuse me. So that all being said, I
So
proposed that
you think the
I,
sun is turning magnetic, because a lot of
yeah.
energy readers and stuff have been putting a lot of information out about the magnetic sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's the Thunderbolt universe, Thunderbolt electric universe. There's a lot of people
Yeah.
throwing gravity out with the baby, and then and then they're going with the electric universe. But I mean, my own personal opinion is, I find it, and I still, I mean, I got to go on with what the scientists are telling us. Well, this is what's going on, and these are the instrumentation that we have. And so I can't, just say I don't believe any of it, because they just won't have any clue. So you got to take what they give us and work with it. So if you take a magnet and put a lighter under it, there's no magnetism. So how does magnetism work in hot environments? They Every time I say that, they drop down in the fetal position, start sucking their thumb, and they run away from you or whatever. So it's like, now I'm not picking on these guys are brilliant that have come up with this new theory, because it basically makes everybody go back and check what you know. Like, even the flat earthers, like, okay, it's time to go back and figure out what you do and don't know, and tighten up on your foundation of science, if you will. And with that, these people, they do, these, not these people, but I mean these scientists that come up with these alternative theories. I mean, that's what I do. I come up with my alternative theories.
Yeah. You intuit it. You take the information and then intuit what you feel is right.
Right. Yeah, I'm very intuitive. Yeah, I know you said intuit, but yeah, I'm intuitive, and I go way out there sometimes. I wonder if I'm ever going to get back, but yeah, I end up coming back.
There's no going back. There's no
We'll
going back.
come back physically, anyways. But yeah, so there, I mean, there's you know, a lot of things we don't know. Like a lot of things don't make sense. But we go with, hey, we put some probes up there that reading magnetism. Now my thing is that magnetism is created by the moon on Earth, and I think the other planets that have moons have magnetism. The one other planets that don't have moons don't have magnetism. So in essence, all the planets in the solar system are in essence are moons to the sun, and they create the you know, the magnetic field on the sun because of the interaction with the gravitational pull and tug. Like I said, Jupiter is a real big, you know, it's like a binary, it's like a, you know, a mini sun, and it pulls and tugs on it. But I think that pulling and tugging at the gravitational level is what excites the electrons and gets them flowing, and I think that creates the magnetism. You know, that kind of makes sense to me. Yeah, kind of
If
going off
we
the
couldn't
thing.
have creation, we couldn't have coming together, we couldn't have immaculate conception without magnetism.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're electric. We're, you know, bioelectric units. You know, our brain operating on electricity. We have a generator in us, and
Yeah.
it's all an integral part of. Yeah, yeah. It's like, you know, photosynthesis with the plants. I mean, it's a, you know, it's a chemical reaction, but there's also an electrical print there. You know,
So
something
overall,
going
you think that the moon is obviously a natural satellite. And so what do you say to the people that say it's an artificial moon?
on. Well, it's well, it's natural up to a point. I mean, it's made of material that's available in the universe. Now, I believe it was, you know, I say it's natural, but I don't believe in the big whack theory, like it just came in, hit the earth, spun off, and then all of a
It's
sudden it just.
hollow. You don't think it's hollow?
Um, you know, I'll be honest with you, it's quite possible because it doesn't, it, because of its size, it should have a higher gravitational pull on it, pull on Earth, which it doesn't. And then again, you got to go back and they said, well, they detonated a bomb off the side of it and it rang like a bell for a couple of hours or whatever. First of all, who told you you could drop a bomb near the moon? You know what I mean? That's the lifeblood of the
Who
planet.
does that?
Who, who are these people? You know, it's like Frankenstein's, you know, in NASA. So, anyways, yeah, I think it's a combination of natural, but it's also like the Earth was designed. That's, you know, that was put together. All the percentages of elements were put together by a divine, you know, genius, you know, God, and or planet builders. I call them planet builders in the book because I think there's a higher entity to the than you know, the people that built the solar system. So,
You think that
anyways,
God consciousness, there's levels of God consciousness.
yeah, yeah, I think there's a supreme being beyond this, you know, little putting things together and mechanics and all this stuff. I think it's, you know, something a lot. There's a life force out there that you know, is instrumental in the universe as we know it. So that all being said, I think I don't think it's, you know, I don't think it's you know, the Death Star from Star Wars and it's going to open up a door and shoot a laser beam at us, but it does provide.
The Greys and the reptilians aren't on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, I mean, you can't discount anything until you've actually gone up there, but
That's right. That's I don't know.
but you never know. You never know. But what we can see, let's just go with what we see, and basically what I see is a sophisticated, engineered piece of equipment up there that's doing a very big job in keeping life alive on Earth, and so it's like, you know, it's like there's images on the moon. You got the and plus there's images on the moon. There's a guy's head up there. He's got an eye. He's got two eyes, lips. His lips are about 200 miles wide. His eyes are about 100 miles wide. His head, ear to ear, is 666 miles wide. There's that number again. You know, so these are they call them all the earthquakes. I mean, what do they call it? They're volcanic activity. It's just absolute nonsense. You can't have these images on the moon built as ancient earthquakes. It just doesn't defies logic. The geometry of the lips and the eyes are just beyond everything. I mean, the odds of that just happening naturally is, you know, I can't even count that high. I mean, the numbers are so off the charts, it's ridiculous. So, and
Yeah.
then you go back into these ancient stories like the Bach Saga. They'll say the face of Ra is on the moon. So, and then there's other ancient societies that talk about the um, Adga was an ancient, an old pre-Islamic religion, and that was actually um, adopted by Islam when it was in its heyday. When it was very new, and they would that was their thing, and for the most part they prayed to the five-eyed god of the moon. Now there's five eyes on the moon. The goldfish has one, the man has two, and there's actually so you got one, two, and the cobra's got two, so that's five eyes. There's the cobra head's way up top on the top right side of the moon in the northern hemisphere. Now down in the southern hemisphere, your orientation, the claw and the cobra are down the bottom, and the man and the goldfish are actually upside down. So, but everything's made to be observed from the northern hemisphere for readings and that type of thing. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Awesome.
So.
Cool. This is great. This was really informative. This was really helpful, honestly. Well, I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on my channel. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate
having me.
All of your knowledge. I would love to do this again sometime, honestly.
Same here, yeah.
The more that I get into my studies with it and everything, I feel like I have more questions, and I feel like you really have come from a place of a lot of research.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
It's new stuff. It's out there. So yeah, I appreciate finding like-minded people that appreciate it, and I get to share what my thoughts are. Other circles, I start talking like this, I got to worry about the men in the white coats grabbing me and locking me up. So this is pretty good. I can go online, talk about what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I just wanted to say, wait, what did you say?
I said I put my books out, my videos out, and hope for the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're doing great. So
thank you.
If anybody wants to get his book, this is what it looks like. And then where can they go to get it?
There's a website. It's www.tsatmoon.com, TISAT, moon full word.com, and it's on Kindle format off of Amazon, and paperback is through Lulu Books. And my Pyramid Gravity Force book is paperback on Amazon. So now you can look me up. Just type in John Shaughnessy on YouTube search. Put pyramid in there. There's a lot of John Shaughnessy's. You throw pyramid or moon in there, you'll get me.
Yeah.
And then you can check out some of that. Some of the topics that we do. We just touch the tips of a lot of these topics. But if you want to jump deeper into it, you'll watch my videos. They're just they're in a PowerPoint format. They're really not high tech, but just to drive the information home, it's perfect.
They're great. I think they're great, and the way that you deliver it is great too. Like I really like your energy and just the way that you talk about it. It's almost just like these idiots over here don't know what they're talking about. This is really what it is, And I'm
really. I gotta be careful. I get in trouble, Yeah.
I think it's great, and I think that you really cover lunar mechanics.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you talk to any astrophysicists out there and ask them what caused the ice age. They can't wait to run out of the room. They're like, they'll talk about Maluk Milankovitch saying, well, the Earth's orbit goes into a circular orbit, but it can go into a V8 orbit. It doesn't matter. Figure 8 orbit. It's not going to change the amount of energy we receive from the sun. If it's round, circular, rectangular, whatever, you're still going to get the same amount of BTUs. So it's all in the tilt. Now, if you think about, a 90-degree tilt, and you're not getting any sun at all on that dark side of the pole for 3 months, it's like 300 degrees below zero. We're talking about ice building mode.
Yeah.
It's really, in Göbekli Tepe, there's not 10, 20 miles away, there's an underground shelter that can house 20,000 people with animals. So you have this place, and then you have Göbekli Tepe, which is instrumentation. So at some point, when you get into that type of environment, if you're not in the right sweet spot on the planet, you'll have to go underground for a few months a year. Maybe three.
I was gonna say we didn't touch on that, but yeah, I think I read in the book about how in the time of an ice age, how everybody's gonna migrate to the center, and then resources
Yeah.
scarce and all of these things.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. With either that, we'll have a lot of friends. Be 8 billion people just loving to be with each other.
it's gonna be interesting. That's gonna
Yeah.
be interesting to see. I mean,
Yeah. It happens slowly. That's the good thing. The people that built the planet, it's a slow. They're marketing on a highway in Mexico, and every year at the summer solstice for Cancer, it shows the sun is marching southward, so it's not coming as far up north. It's only 10, 20 feet, but as the water melts, that tilt's going to increase. It's the speed of the tilt's going to increase. So over time, it goes faster. But I think it was, like I said, the place was designed by brilliance, and it's to protect life, not destroy it. So
yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
but
That's
yeah,
wonderful. Protect life. I think we'll leave
there
that.
you go, there you go. Namaste.
Yeah, namaste, satnam, asalam,
Mhm.
namah shivaya. Thank you for watching, and I hope everyone has a beautiful day.